So Old Mutual has been around for 178 years.
There you go.
It's much longer than me and you, Prof. And a company really deeply anchored in the opportunity to make a meaningful difference in society. When I first joined Old Mutual, and I've been at Old Mutual for this is my 7th year. When I first joined Old Mutual, my mom was worried. She thought I was going to be a salesman like Prof and sell funeral policies.
Oh, and suppose you die kind of salesman.
Which is certainly not the case. And I think oftentimes we don't speak enough about the different types of careers for people who are mathematically inclined and the opportunity to make an impact. I'm an engineer by background and happen to work in a very different field to what I studied. But I think the opportunity for people who understand math or value math, particularly in private sector, get the opportunity to solve the most interesting problems. So in the same way that in a maths Olympiad, for example, you encounter fairly complex questions that the average mathematical student wouldn't necessarily have to answer, how we start to translate that and create opportunities for new careers, I believe, is the next frontier. And specifically, I like the fact that you were asking about climate change, because climate change has become so topical in the world, not just because of warming and the environment getting warmer, but because of the new problems we have to solve. New problems like, for example, predicting where the next set of natural disasters are going to happen. So which areas are more prone to fires and fires that are not necessarily extinguishable, earthquakes, floods, etc. Opportunities about understanding what's happening beneath our oceans today, how we start to preserve what we've got, and how we start to create a future going forward. And that's going to need people who are fascinated by solving the biggest problems in life, right? And mathematically inclined people are doing that. And so for us at Old Mutual, we're really starting to challenge ourselves about the careers of the future beyond the standard actuarial careers that we've built. I mean, we employ all sorts, chartered accountants and actuaries and engineers, behavioral scientists and sociologists and all sorts. But why I think climate change is presenting a new opportunity is because we need people who have the ability to somewhat predict, or at least model predictively, to help us not only quantify the size of the risk, but also be able to step in for society, for us as a human nation, to be able to exist going forward. And it's an exciting opportunity, certainly for people with this sort of skill set.
Yeah, it's just an extension of that question. You mentioned that you are an engineer, which is another profession I don't think we quite understand. What is it about the core skills that cut across different professions that makes it easier for people to move from one qualification to the next versus those qualifications that don't allow any mobility?
Thanks. The first one would be curiosity.
Right.
It's actually not something, I don't think you can teach it. It's ingrained, you can expose it, etc. But irrespective of what it is that you study, the natural propensity to be curious has to be there. So you can't just be comfortable with what it is or what it has always been. I think you have to be fascinated by what could be, is the first thing. I think the second thing is you must be fascinated by having to solve problems. So complexity, and I often say, like, it frustrates my husband to no end because I like things to fall in neat boxes.
Oh, no.
Like the puzzle pieces must...
An engineer who works in an actuarial environment who likes neat little boxes?
But like the chaos of it shouldn't bother you as much. I think you just have to be fascinated by the fact that this can neatly fall into some sort of block,
right,
and eventually the picture will come together.
Right.
So it's kind of curiosity, but a natural propensity to want to solve problems. And those problems should be limitless. I don't think that you should be like, I'm an actuary, so I only solve predictive statistical models.
Right.
Or I'm an electrical engineer and I think about circuits and the internet or whatever else that electrical engineers can be fascinated by. This willingness to be fascinated by whatever problem can be presented to you and apply yourself to how you can get to a potential solution. And that solution doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be the only one. And so the last one is just about being collaborative. I think the world is moving into a state where collaboration is actually an underestimated value,
right,
particularly in organizations like ours. Because the problems that we have to solve need cross-functional thinking. You can't be a specialist in every single one of them, but your ability to be able to connect problems with people and ideas is the next frontier of the careers that we need to build.
Wow.